So today we are going to break down all the electric bikes that we are expecting to see in the dealers next year and which ones I think are probably worth having a look at. So as per all our normal roundups, there are 3 criteria for these ones. First off, can't be crazy stupid expensive. If it's worth more than a Tesla truck or the Cybertruck, whatever the hell they call that thing, then I haven't included in this list. So sorry, brands like Aston Martin, your bike is straight out. Number 2, range. Must be able to do over 100 kilometers. And number 3, top speed needs to be over 100 kilometers per hour. So just trying to fill in the gaps that it is at least a highway capable bike that could hopefully get you to work and back depending on your commute. And that's pretty much it. So actually, the first one that makes the list is the new Harley Livewire, which hopefully we'll see this thing in the dealerships in the next couple of months, maybe. They've delayed getting this one out quite a few times. That being said, Aquaman here did just give her the thumbs up, and it'll be interesting to see if we get an updated version of the Katy Perry song about Harleys in Hawaii and what happens there. Anyway, I digress. The specs on this one. It's got 78 ponies, a range of 180 kilometers, does 0 to 100 in 3 seconds, and has a top speed of 180 kilometers an hour. That should be super exciting. There's been plenty of promos around it, so hopefully we do see this thing very soon. Next up, we've got the bike known as the RMK E2 or the Verge TS. Went through a bit of a rebrand. I'm pretty sure they're sticking with Verge TS now. This thing looks sick. Let's do the rundown. So this thing is packed full with 50 kilowatts in it, a range of over 200 clicks, 0 to 100 hasn't actually been advised, and a top speed of 160 kilometers an hour. Like I've said before, the rear wheel, the hubless design looks awesome. It's kind of just futuristic enough without being too crazy. So yeah, it will be very interesting to see these things come out. Next up on the list, Sur Ron Storm Bee. So this is a personal favorite of mine. It's an electric dirt bike. It barely scrapes in on the specs, I do have to say, but let's run it down. So this thing packs 50 horses, a range of over 100 kilometers, no advertised 0 to 100 time, and a top speed of 110 kilometers an hour. Now, speaking of bikes that I'll probably be trying to hide from the missus, or at least, you know, put it on a different credit card at the very minimum, the SAVAK Alpha is announced to come out for next year as well. So that's an Australian-made, cafe racer looking bike. Let's throw it up on the screen and run through everything it's got. That all-electric motor has exactly 60 kilowatts sitting under there, has a range of over 200 kilometers, does 0 to 100 in 3.5 seconds, and the top speed is probably super fast. They haven't actually advertised that, and we'll know more when the bike comes out. Now, wouldn't be an electric bike roundup if we didn't mention Zero. They've been making electric bikes forever, and they're probably one of the bigger manufacturers in that space, given how long they've been perpetually making them for. They've got a whole range coming out next year, much bigger than their current range, but I'm going to focus on 2 bikes, the first of which being the Zero SRF. This thing is packing a monumental 110 horses under it. Has a range of more than 120 kilometers, obviously depending on how much of those 110 ponies are in action. Does 0 to 100 real quick. I don't have the time, but that kind of power to be pretty insane. And a top speed of 200 kilometers an hour. Now, crazy specs on that thing, right? That is their more upper line bike. Down from that, there is the FXS. Now, this is a motard inspired bike, I guess you'd call it. There is a more dirt version of it. But the FXS, let's have a look and run through the specs. Packing 46 ponies under it, can do more than 100 kilometers range, does 0 to 100 pretty fast, and has a top speed of 130 kilometers an hour. By far and away, it's worth keeping an eye on these bikes because Zero have been, like I said, in the industry for a fair while, and there's probably some legitimacy behind those numbers that they're pushing out, especially with that SRF. That is an insane number that they are quoting on that. So, have you heard about the Tacita T-Cruise? Neither had I until now. It's a traditional style cruiser, going back to a very, I guess, traditional engine style as well. It's got a standard slipper clutch, chain driven, normal, 5 up gear, 1 down, 5 up gear pattern, and it doesn't look too bad. Let's throw it up and see what specs we've got on this. This thing's packing more than 44 kilowatts, has a 100 kilometer plus range, Probably does 0 to 100 fairly fast despite the gear changing, and the top speed is not actually advertised, but they say it does more than 100 kilometers an hour, so I'm pretty happy with that one. And that pretty much sums up the list for today. I honestly thought there was going to be a lot more bikes in this list than what there is. Unfortunately, most of them sort of fell out in the way of pricing. They sit in that above $30,000 price bracket, which is super depressing. I mean, I wanted to see a lot of these bikes available. Who knows what else is going to be announced? If I've missed anything, as always, drop it in a comment below. A quick note, make sure you do some research before you spend any actual money on these things. Motorcycle or electric motorcycle range is a funny thing to predict. Unlike petrol bikes, where sort of highway Ks you can actually be more efficient and work out your mileage. In electric bikes, generally, when they're not geared, which most of the hubless ones, actually most of them are not geared, sorry, they basically chew more energy the faster you go, so it's difficult for them to come up with a figure of highway versus city versus whatever for range. I did my best to make my way through most of the marketing spiel to actually get ones that would be able to do 100 kilometers plus on the highway. But that's all I got for today. I'll be back Monday, so if you want to see what's happening in the news, definitely hit the buttons, do the things. Remember to speed safely, and I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.